So one, two, three.
Hi, my name is Erica Bull, talking about Teach the Future, and I just wanted to show you this picture first, just explaining that, of course, there are more future possibles, but which future do you like? And we play with these lines to show you that there are different futures and that depending which route you'd like to take, there are different outcomes. So let's start about talking about futures. And why do we talk about futures? Well, we think that with Teach a Future, young people are the makers of their own future and that of the world around them. So therefore, I joined Peter Bishop, starting Teach the Future, and bringing together a community of advocates, bringing futures thinking into education. Because I also think that this is not only important to learn in school for young kids, because they go to school to prepare themselves for the future, and they learn mostly about the past and the now, but they're not taught about the future. And of course, the future doesn't exist, but you can learn skills to anticipate the future better and maybe to design the future. So doing that, not only teaching futures thinking into education, it also stimulates teachers to understand how futures thinking might work and how they could help transform the education system. So why I think it's important that when you're able to envision futures, it's easier to make sustainable decisions in the now, meaning that if young children know that there's change and that they are not afraid of change, but they embrace change and they see it as something part of life, part of a fun thing, then they're much more inclined and empowered to anticipate, be flexible, and deal with this change. And then the next step after, if you're able to deal with this change, could even be that you feel empowered to also influence this change. So being a change maker, being able to influence your own future and maybe taking it a step further, also influencing the future of the world around you and maybe even of the planet. So we think this is very important, and also that will help youngsters to also participate in social transformation, because this is a time where we need this need this to happen. So when you start thinking about the future, you could imagine sustainable futures, and you could even find ways and roadmaps and ideas on how to get there. So embrace change as a positive thing and being able to influence it for the better. My name, as I said, is Erica Bull. I call myself a change maker. I joined Peter Bishop in 2014, starting Teach the Future Europe in the Netherlands. And this is my little niece, Sophia, who I believe if we do this, that we can help her create a nice and better future. So as said, I'm located in the Netherlands, and this is what, it's in Dutch, but I'll translate. This is what they say here in the Netherlands. Raymond, who's a boy, said, I wish we would have had future instead of history as a class. So this also shows that children are ready to deal with the future and to actually start creating this. So what I did here in the Netherlands, and also helping and bringing this further in Europe and now globally, is that we, for instance, have two little lessons here, one for kids at younger age and one for older age, 17 to 19. And they're just two little sort of 20 minutes lessons, which are where we explain how you can teach the future and how easy it is to start future thinking in your classroom. And the first one with the little kids, 10 to 12, is more about a philosophical discussion. And the other one with the older kids is about different scenarios and which scenario they think is ahead of us, or which scenario they would like to be ahead of us. These can be found on YouTube, just typing in the names of those two lessons. And another thing we did here is that we have a lesson book, Educating the Future for Teachers. These are 5 lessons. It's still in Dutch. We're translating it into English right now. Where we explain how you could, looking at your own future first, then looking at the future around you, and then being able to influence this future and seeing what kind of impact you have when you create and you start thinking about the future. Making it, starting every lesson with a mindful exercise, and ending the lessons also by explaining what happens and why the teachers are doing this. And what we especially try to do in this kind of lessons is not just teaching them and explaining what things are, but making them do things, and even dancing, role-playing, theater, building the future. Because when you start using, not only thinking about it, but also building it and experiencing it, it helps you embrace much more. So another thing also, because we'd like to promote this future thinking, is that if you just have lessons, it goes to teachers, but nobody notices. So what we did is that we designed the children's, it's called in Dutch, the Kindertrendrede. It's, we have a king, and he presents how he sees the future every year. So from that, there were trend watchers in the Netherlands who decided to also present what they see as the trends of the future. And we asked children also to say how they see this future. So this is the children's version of what they see and what they would like the future to look like. And we even added some advice for our mayor to help him to create this future that our youngsters really would like. And this is a project we've done here in the Netherlands, but it's also available for others. We just need to translate. This could be done in your country or your city as well. So it's just designed to make it visible, so that people actually see what children do and think about the future. Another thing is that futures thinking in education is a training that we made, because we feel and we experience that some of the teachers are hesitant to teach the future because they've never had futures thinking in school themselves. So they, even though we have a great library, and I think Peter will tell you about it, it's still difficult for people to go there and just start. So this training really helps them to understand futures thinking, and the second day is also how to educate futures thinking. And I think also Alicia in Mexico there has a great program for teachers to understand and work with the futures thinking. And then from all these things, people become more aware. So there's also the future chair, and this is by an initiative of Jan Terlouw, who's a Dutch writer, and he wrote in a book, you know, we are all having meetings with older people. Where's the voice of the children? So why don't we add a little chair to our conversation, to our meeting room, and adding that, not even a child has to be on it, but by adding that, we are aware of making decisions not only for ourselves, but also for the future generations. So this is some sort of an awareness tool. And even in one of the cities, the city where I live, in Breda, we made a concept out of it. So children talk about the future. Children are listened by, are active, and decide. And grown-ups listen to the future. Grown-ups work together with the future, and grown-ups feel responsible for the future. Sorry for my bad translation there, but so this is there to explain that it's not just a chair, but that you can even go further, and that you can give children a voice, and that grown-ups should be much more aware of what the future might want and what we need to do for this. And then to go a bit further, what we did here is we designed a pilot in the Netherlands, which is called Futures Education, in which we are making small steps, but going further and further. And the idea is that we work together with 5 cities, and in every city we work together with a teacher and training program, a primary school, and a secondary school. School systems are a bit different in every country, but younger children and middle-aged children in every city, so that you have a circular effect in your city. And you can, and then in 5 cities, so different cities spread around the country, so there's no competition, but you can learn from each other. And as we are working with different teacher and training programs already, we see that the training programs are different, and that what we try to do in this project is that we help the programs to integrate futures thinking into their curriculum. So just not saying, here are some lessons, here's a training, but really looking at how their curriculum looks like and how we could easily integrate futures thinking. And especially in the teacher training programs, I feel this is very important. For instance, we are working with one of the teacher and training programs. We wrote an article, Becoming a Future-Proof Teacher, Futures Education Integrated in a Teacher and Training Program. This is the image, so you can check it out if you like. And what we did with this teacher and training program, for instance, is that we had a future week, and this is a future week in year 4, where all the students looked at what is happening around us, what are the trends. They designed scenarios together, and they discussed what scenario they thought would be probable, and which scenario they thought would be preferable. And in the beginning, they were overwhelmed. It's made at cognitive skills, so it was very difficult. They didn't understand why they were doing this. At the end of the week, they were so proud of themselves, very engaged, and feel empowered, and also using this knowledge to go to their schools where they would start, where they will start teaching. They even discussed this with their colleagues or the children or their directors, and some even figured that the children were better at doing this than they were, and others said, well, I talked to the director and he doesn't really have a future of education and a vision. And I'm not sure if I want to work for this school, because I see that we need to also transform the education system and bringing in futures thinking. So this was very rewarding, and the students even asked and said, year 4, this is much too late. So we helped them, and now Marcel Staring, he's there, and Frank, some of the teachers there, they added some weeks. So there's even a deep learning week, year 1, a change week, year 2, a deep learning week, year 3, and a future week, year 4, so that they are stimulated and are triggered to, from year 1, start dealing with this change and this future. And I think this is a great example of where we've gone from the Netherlands to Europe to global. Futures Day was March 1st. Our Finnish colleagues designed this card set to stimulate the conversation about the future that day, and the Teach the Future community translated this card set, and we now have it in, I think, 9 languages, and it's been used that day all over the world. And there's also a Spanish version translated by Alicia and her team. So this is an example how we go from a small lesson in one classroom to spreading this thinking and changing the mindset of people all over the world. So the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And I think we're doing this together. And I think why are we doing this? Well, it's if you teach the future, if you start thinking about futures consciousness, then this is a model by some of our colleagues at the Finland Futures Research Center. Students learn about time perspective, agency belief, openness to alternatives, systems perception, and concern for others. So also with this, if you are taught these skills, then social transformation is much easier, and also for you to deal with this will definitely help. So here are just some lines about the different dimensions. There's a very nice article about it. They made a test. We're working with them, testing this test on futures consciousness. When we start with our students and when we end with their students, how much did they gain in these dimensions? And just to show you how we discuss this here in the Netherlands, and this is in different. This is different in different countries, but. Here they are looking for 21st century skills, and a lot of those skills are used when you do futures thinking, when you teach futures thinking. And in this little model, it shows you in one part is sense making, so logical, critical, analytical, systemical thinking, and the other part is change making, and this is design thinking, imagination, creative thinking. And on the cross marks of those thinkings are empathical thinking, because you learn how to think in different time zones, in different futures, in different people's minds, and especially why this really helps us. The future doesn't exist, so nobody's right. There's not a wrong or a right answer. So. Here, people listen to each other, and every idea and every crazy thinking is important. So there's much more empathical ways on how to communicate and talk to each other. And the upper part of this model is also anticipation, because you need to shift between those, between worlds, between time zones, between change. So. These are the skills, and I can explain it in much more depth another time if you like, but these are the skills that you use futures thinking when you start to think about the future. And then these dimensions, these are what you gain out of that. And just to show, these are the 21st century skills that are used in Holland, in Belgium, in some other European countries. And with futures thinking, you use a lot of these skills in a fun and a nice way. And in Holland, there's a discussion about the new curriculum, and they're not as far saying that they embrace futures thinking as how they do this in Finland. Our Finnish colleagues said it's the futures thinking is mentioned 94 times in their curriculum already. Here, we're not that far, but at least they're saying it should be more future-oriented. So we are growing, building, and hopefully when people are ready, they will find us. They would just need to shift to where the magic happens. And I think we're on a roll to this magic together. And just to show what teachers say when they experience futures thinking is that, for instance, they say, I'm starting to think I'm doing my work well when I'm unable to answer my students' questions. And this is also a mind shift for teachers. But if you get there, it's a fun and very nice way to work with your to teach and work with your students. Another one, seeing kids shine again, giving them the strength to keep going. I have a much deeper relationship with my students. We work together exploring their path, because it's not about saying this is right or wrong. It's about helping them to find a way to deal with the future. And especially because what I think is that it's not a work skill or a skill for just some people. No, it's a life skill. Everybody has a future, and it's important that we help them to understand and help them create their own future. And the last one, teaching the future allows me to experiment with the virtue of not knowing. So change is also a chance, and I hope you will also join us, and future education, going to future-proof society and systems. would definitely help. So I hope you will join us. And whenever you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. And looking forward to meeting you in the future. Thank you.